Hello and welcome back to the 5 Minute Film Club. And today is a Friday the 13th video because, look at your watches, it's Friday the 13th. And it's only fitting that I talk about the most underrated film in the franchise. Sorry, I can't say that without laughing. Anyway, let's look at Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. Now, this film takes place roughly 6 years after the events of the final chapter, where Tommy Jarvis, then played by Corey Feldman, managed to actually kill Jason Voorhees. Well, now he's all grown up, Tommy, and played this time by John Shepherd, is still suffering from nightmares about that night, and after years in a sanatorium, he has finally moved to a halfway house called Pinehurst. Whereas Tommy was the life and soul of Part 4, this version of Tommy is almost a complete mute, meaning, unfortunately, that the only character that we can finally have some continuity with in this series, apart from Jason, is someone that we can't actually connect to. I think Shepherd does a good enough job with what he's given here, but for large parts of the film he is just absent, and doesn't have anything really to add to the plot. And let's actually just talk about that plot for a moment. Once Tommy arrives, he witnesses a brutal murder of another young adult at this facility, at the hands of the last person you would ever give an axe to.
I think you're really out of line.
In fact, this is one of the worst run establishments out there. I know the camps were essentially staffed by children and run by children, but I didn't also think that in this world of Friday the 13th, institutions were as well. But yeah, in the second that Tommy moves in there, somebody dies and then everybody else dies the next day. He's got some bad luck, hasn't he, Tommy Jarvis? Anyway, when the ambulance turns up to collect what is left of poor little Joey, one of the ambulance drivers, Roy, is completely shaken to his core about this murder. We know this as the camera spends a lot of time trying desperately to get across to us that this Roy bloke is important to us. The rest of the cast in the home is made up with some superficially good characters, whereas before in the Friday films I always got the sense that these characters had connections with each other, and also they tried at least to make me understand why I should care about them before they were dispatched. But because this film was actually set out to be made with the proviso that every 7 to 8 minutes there is a death or a jump scare, we have even less time than normal to get to know these people. The standouts here are, of course, Reggie the Reckless and his brother Damon.
Oh! Hey, you okay?
Oh! Some damn enchiladas!
Oh!
And a shout out to Tiffany Helm as Violet, the robot dancing Walkman wearing icon. The film was filmed under the ironic title of Repetition, and reportedly some actors were very annoyed when the penny finally dropped that they were in a Friday the 13th film. This film is absolutely stuffed full of characters, and the vast majority are just machete fodder. There are 21 kills in this film, and that, shoved into a film runtime of under an hour and a half, is just too much. And the less said about these two, the better. I mean, where the hell are they meant to be from?
Ain't I make the best goddamn stew in the whole wide world?
Best goddamn stew in the whole world, man.
Anyway, the main point of Friday the 13th Part 5 is to introduce doubt that Jason is dead, and that he is actually out killing again. Or maybe it isn't him, and maybe it could be Tommy. Or maybe this random drifter who has 2 scenes, and one of them is when he dies. Or could it be that ambulance driver, as he does seem to be getting a lot of focus in this film.
What the hell's going on here? You talking to me, Sheriff? Huh? Oh, I thought you was talking to me.
No, Roy, it's okay. Go ahead. Get them out of here.
However, another big focus of the film is female nudity. Watching this film, you'd have never guessed that director Danny Steinman's career started in the adult film industry. There are some shots in this film that really make you squirm. The reason for that isn't down to prudence, but actually that this film cannot commit to either direction. It's just not sleazy enough to make it feel like that's the intention that they were going for. And it's not violent enough, I don't think, to be classed as a horror film. Definitely not by today's standards. Out of the 5 films I've reviewed so far in this series, this is definitely the most sanitised. That's not through want of trying by the directors and everybody on set, but again this is down to the MPAA, and this is when they really started to go after horror films, and Friday the 13th in particular was held up as some sort of poster boy for all that was wrong in a modern American cinema at the time. This attack on horror films would only grow from the mid-1980s as the Reagan government came down hard on anything they deemed to be perverting the minds of young Americans. By this point as well, the slasher genre was waning at the box office, being replaced by high-budget action films and high-concept adventure films like The Goonies, released in 1985 and starring Corey Feldman, which is the reason why he only makes a fleeting appearance here. This film gets a lot of stick for being the one with the fake Jason, as at the end, spoiler alert, the ambulance driver is indeed revealed to be the killer. Who'd have guessed it? Nobody. But don't worry, if you weren't paying attention, then the cigar-smoking sheriff is ready with Roy's wallet that just happens to contain all the loose ends of this very choppy film. I don't really care that Jason doesn't feature as the main antagonist. I mean, the whole film doesn't work, so why you would get hung up on the fact that Jason's not really in this film as your main problem, just get over it. When this film was released in 1985, it did make it to #1 in the box office, but it didn't have much competition, to be honest. Apart from, it did open up against a particular childhood VHS favourite of mine, which is Baby, The Secret of the Lost Legend, about a baby dinosaur being found in a jungle. Maybe that's a win? I'm not sure. The reason for a Friday the 13th Part 5 is because of money. Pure and simple. Friday films were seen as making just enough to warrant their existence by Paramount at this time. But how long would that goodwill last, especially with the MPAA breathing down their necks? I don't hate Friday the 13th Part 5, as I think there is some good things here. There's some interesting shots hidden in this film, outside of the larger-than-life characters, threadbare plot, and unexciting kills. The very best thing that I can say about this film is that it made enough money for my all-time favourite Friday the 13th film to be greenlit, and I can't wait to talk about Jason Lives next September. Why don't you let me know your thoughts now about A New Beginning in the comments down below, and please remember to subscribe to see all of my future movie reviews. Thank you very much for watching, have a great Friday the 13th, and goodbye.
Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning.